south of Fresno, California, a little town called Hanford, and we had 116 degrees last week. Nice and fun. Nice and fun in California. I was fortunate, though, because I was on a business trip to southern Florida down by Miami, and I got to miss it all. But then again, I did get all that humidity down there. So I guess you're never safe anywhere when you go in the middle of summer. Thank you guys for coming tonight. I want to thank everybody out there on the World Wide Web, on YouTube, Facebook, and all the sources. Tonight's going to be a fun night. Anybody here not at the last number one Patriot debate? Anybody first time? Oh, you're in for a show then. Because the last one was a lot of fun, and I plan on making this one middle of summer. Thank you guys for coming tonight. I want to thank everybody out there on the World Wide Web, on YouTube, Facebook, and all the sources. Tonight's going to be a fun night. Anybody here not at the last number one Patriot debate? Anybody first time? Oh, you're in for a show then. Because the last one was a lot of fun, and I plan on making this one fun, interesting, and informative. A little bit about me. As a law enforcement officer for 21 years and a small business owner now for the last 10 years, last year I ran for the state assembly in the 32nd district, which is Kings County and Kern County in California, just north of the Grapevine. It's a very big district, and I had a chance to put a lot of miles and meet a lot of people. And I will tell you that every one of these guys up here on this stage are putting the work in, and running for an office like this, or even running for assembly, not only teaches you a lot, it makes you really, really tired. So I've had an opportunity to talk to several of these people on my radio show. I have a podcast show. It's called Rebel Radio Now, and we do all kinds of interviews. I've actually interviewed 6 candidates now for the governor position over the last 3 months. It's a big responsibility, and I was so happy when I was invited to come be the master of ceremonies, you might say, or moderator for this event. Right now, we're going to introduce the 6 candidates for the governor's office coming out of this door right over here. First of all, we have Karen Blake. Come on out. From my neck of the woods over in Fresno, it's Nicholas Wildstar. Diego Martinez. He and I used to work in the same town, and we actually knew each other from way back. And it's like, wait a minute, I remember you. Daniel Mercury. Fuji Shura. Chauncey Slim Killens. Okay, guys, we talked about this earlier. It's going to be a question and answer event. Everybody's going to get a different question. And then anybody that has a first question, anybody else in the line can put their hand up and have a response or add on to the question. At that time, the person that got the first question will have 30 seconds to rebut or to continue or not talk at all. It's whatever you would like to do during this process. Before we get started here, I want to bring up Pastor Ron King. Here he comes. And I want to thank the New Hope Family Worship Center here in Corona, California, for this beautiful facility and for allowing us this space to learn more about California and how we can make it better. Pastor.
Why don't we stand, and I'm going to open up in prayer, and then Haley Cohen is going to come, and she's going to lead us in the national anthem. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for this time that we could be together tonight, Lord, to learn more about what's happening in this election. Father, I thank you for the freedom we have in America to do these things. And I pray, Father God, for all the candidates that, Lord, their yes be yes, their no be no, Father God. That, Lord, they'd be guarded for all corruption that's going on in our state, Father, and that, Lord, that you protect them and keep them. And, Father, I pray that through these last 60 days, God, that the person that you have to rise to the top, and, Father God, that we could see a change in our state, God. That we could see a move of God in our state again. And Lord, there'd be just a sweetness about California again. So Father, I pray for these candidates, that Lord, that you give them wisdom from above. And Father God, you guide and direct them. And Lord, I pray that their true character would come out tonight, God, that we would know who we're listening to. And Father God, that we know who we're voting for. We thank you for this time. I pray for Todd, our moderator, Father God, that you just be with him, guide and direct him through this whole process tonight. In Jesus' name, amen. Welcome Haley as she comes to sing the national anthem.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave.
Thank you so very much. Thank you very much. Okay, tonight we want. We good? We're good. Tonight we want to make sure that we give out the candidates every opportunity to speak. If you do have something that you want to react to, please keep it to a minimum. We had a little bit of stuff going on last time in here. Don't forget, after this, you're able to come up and speak with the different candidates if you do have an issue, or if you'd like to, compliment them or take them to task. That's on you. And one last thing, they each have 2 minutes to answer their question. If anybody else would like to answer the question, they can raise their hand, and then the 30-second rebuttal. Are you ready for this? Let's get ready to debate. The very first question was a random question. We have a list of questions here, and Ms. Blake got to choose the first question. It was question number 6. And right over here, Mark, why don't you come on up and ask the question, because he actually wanted to ask it himself.
Good evening. So my question is, do you believe California can have a fair election? And what can you do between now and the election to guarantee that?
I don't think there's much we can do for this election to make it fair, but going forward, some of the things I would do is eliminate the automatic mail-in ballot. If you request one, my understanding is they automatically send them from thereafter. I think that needs to be changed. I don't think it should be automatically sent out after you request the first one. I think every election, if you are going to be absent for the election, you need to request it per every election.
Does anybody have a rebuttal to that? Mr. Martinez.
to have a fair election in the state of California, we have to change legislation. But before there, we have to understand that right now we're at a crucial time where question number one is the most important, is yes on the recall. Go vote second to the most popular or the person you like the most and can stand behind. Then we're going to go to voter ID when I come into office. We're going to mandatory voter ID. We're going to have mail-in ballots only for absentee voters who can prove who they are. Otherwise, it's not ever going to happen. We have got to change people in Sacramento to make a difference.
Would anybody else like to comment? Mr. Mercury.
So some of the things that I've noticed in this journey is that a lot of us don't, unfortunately, pay attention to the California State Constitution. And one of the things is that under the California Constitution, I think it's Article 2, Section 4, it says that your legislature shall prohibit improper practices that affect elections. And I think everybody in this room can attest that a mail-in ballot actually contributed massively to our presidential stolen election. Therefore, our state is required to remove this. So it's not even an issue of whether or not we should be able to have a fair election. It's already written in the state constitution. So yes, we need to remove mail-in ballots, which contributes to a stolen election that can help us first and foremost get back to an integrity-driven election by doing that alone.
Mr. Wildstar.
Well, a few things about this recall election. Like Diego said, Californians will be asked to either vote yes on that recall or vote no. And then the second portion is, of course, whatever candidate that you choose to vote for. But with regards to you having access to vote, because of the COVID precautions, they are requiring that mail-in ballot. It shouldn't be mail-in only, but there will be in-person voting for 11 days before the election. So definitely keep that in mind. But moving forward, there needs to be more accountability. That starts first with making sure that one person has one vote, and of course that we are having those forensic audits periodically.
Does anybody else have a... Mr. Shihora? Mr. Killens, go ahead.
Hello? Yeah, I would immediately, once I'm in office, I'll get rid of Dominion voter fraud machines because evidence is showing that it's wrong. And I would encourage us to go back to same-day voting. I'm not necessarily opposed to early voting, but if family members need their family to take their registration card down and turn it in for them, that's fine. But just having people randomly picking it up, gathering multiple ballots, I think it's wrong. You have to call or write and tell them, I want a ballot. And if you do not, and you have to be a qualified registered voter. If you're not, you cannot vote. And we need to update the voters registration so we'll know dead people, animals cannot vote. I mean, yes, they can do a paw print easily. You know, we love animals, but they do not have a right to vote. Dead people do not have a right to vote. And cheating, and as Walstar said, the legislation.
Thank you, Mr. Killens. Mr. Shiora.
Yes, thank you very much. As an elected official, state of California, I will tell you that we do have to be concerned on voting fraud. And first and foremost, in our California election laws, we do have a provision that allows outside international observers. I did contact the European Union to come to this specifically for this election, for California recall, to be observers, neutral observers. So I encourage you, the audience, contact your representatives, local, state, municipal, and federal, to get outside international observers during this election. Thank you.
30 seconds, Ms. Blake, if you'd like it.
I agree with a lot of these ideas, especially the voter ID, and get rid of the Dominion machines.
Great. So now we know how the game is played. We got all through on the first question. Now we take care of something that we have to take care of first. 2 minutes to open. Your opening statement.
Hi, I'm Karen Blake. I'm running to promote a couple of ideas, and one of them is we need to protect our kids with the COVID vaccines. It's experimental, and my concern is what's going to happen to these children as they grow up. It's fine for the older folks where we're impacted by COVID-19, but there's a solution I'm not hearing anybody discuss, and that's far UVC lighting. It's already been proven to be safe for humans, and it's been implemented in several stores, including Starbucks, something that most people are not aware of. And so I'm going to take this time to try to get something other than anti-vaxxers and vaxxers in the conversation.
Thank you very much. Mr. Wildstar.
Hello, my name is Nicholas Wildstar, and if my name sounds familiar, that was because I ran for governor in the last election. I was the Libertarian candidate, and now I'm running in this recall election as a proud Ron Paul Republican. That's actually where I found my roots in political activism as an Occupy Wall Street protester out here in California. So I've been involved in activism over the past decade. I'm a father to a beautiful, almost 2-year-old baby, a son, and a husband to a beautiful, gorgeous wife who is watching me right now from home, taking care of our son. But I am also a working class man, and I think that's what I represent most, is the working class people of this state. Even though I am a successful rap artist who has music that has been heard by millions all over the world. But I'm not seeking fame or fortune. I'm simply doing this because I want to serve the people of my community and the people of this state. I see running for office being just like going into the military, where if you want to serve your country and the people in your community, you get involved. Only instead of politicians being enlisted, which they are recruited by some. But again, I haven't been recruited. My motivation is simply due to the desire and need by the community to have better representation. And that's what I'm doing, is responding to that call. One thing I don't talk about much, but I'll say it here, and since I'm in good company, is I'm a man of faith. And I believe in divine timing. I think right now we're being called to act on the moment, since time is of the essence because of this coronavirus crisis, or with this recall election. So we need to act now. I'm asking the people to take a leap of faith and go wild with Wildstar for governor. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wildstar. Mr. Martinez.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Diego Martinez. I'm an immigrant to the United States. I am running for governor of California for the simple facts. Real solutions for real California problems. Stop putting Band-Aids on things. Our veterans need help. Our homeless
You have
need help.
mail.
The Central Valley, we're starving for water. We have an immigration problem. We have a border problem, and it's real. We have a taxation problem which has hurt each and every single one of us. COVID-19 has killed 70% of our small businesses in this state. It is time that we take action. It is time that we stand united for a better future with somebody who actually has some real solutions for the real problems that are going on. Career politicians, keep telling you, keep voting for me. The only time you see them, election time, and when they want to get in your wallet. That has got to stop, because they don't care about us, the average person, small business owner, pro-Second Amendment, pro-life, love God and our country, and I'm here to serve. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Mercury.
Thank you. And I just want to say, throughout my campaign, I've discovered that the people who tend to love sovereignty and tend to love their liberty, you are now the new outlaw. So people who consider themselves to be patriots, you're now the new terrorists in this country. And that's really a sad thing to say. And this is one of the things that I've noticed throughout my campaign. And a lot of people keep asking me, why am I running for governor? And I'm always going to answer it the same way, because as a veteran, I did not fight for this country. I did not fight for socialism, Marxism, or communism. And I don't think any of you did either. And I really have to dig down deep and tell people that our legislative branch has truly demonized what it means to be an American. And yet they're supposed to be our representatives. And I think predominantly it's because of the fact that they've removed accountability and self-accountability. That's gone. And generally, those two things come from, I believe, from God, the spirit of conviction. And when you remove that, you don't have anything, because then you have no reason to have a higher standard. And so a lot of people come to me and tell me to stop talking about my faith, or stop, maybe I need to be a little more inclusive, or, I should just play the game. And my answer is always going to be the same. No, I'm not going to do that. I'm always going to talk about my faith. Because I tell people, you know, I'm brash, I'm rough around the edges, and I'm as common as they come. I'm not here for sound bites and snapshots or kissing babies, or not that I don't love babies, I've got 2 of them over there. But I'm here to tell you what you need to hear. I'm here to tell you the things that have to be said. But at the end of the day, today we're going to debate policies. But I need everyone to understand that we live in a super majority here, and they are all corrupt. So there's no way that they're going to allow for a conservative to reinstitute authority over them. And so in this state, we realize we are going to have to fight. And we are going to need a governor who has the willingness and the fortitude to stand up in the face of adversity. And I believe I am going to be that governor, the people's governor.
Thank you, Mr. Mercury. Mr. Shiora.
Thank you. My name is Fuji, F-U-J-I. Family, unity, justice, integrity. But more importantly than that, as an elected official, I just want to personally thank all the candidates, Karen, Wildstar, Diego, Daniel, and Chauncey, because a representative form of government depends on fellow Americans, my fellow candidates for running. And now more than ever, we need also candidates like myself that's able to work with both Democrats, Republicans, Libertarians, and Green Party. And I will do that. I personally made a website called www.candidate.contact that lists all the candidates, known candidates running for California governor. Why? Because information is being suppressed, and I'm not here to do that. I'm here to give you, the voter, as much information as possible and to protect those that are most vulnerable, our youth in schools. That's why I am school choice, and also I'm pro-life. I'm also independent. But just as important, now more than ever, I will make sure the vaccine passport does not affect us in the state of California, next California governor. And as California governor, I will open up a lawsuit litigation program to make sure to look for consumer fraud with the coronavirus vaccine. Make sure to know what we're going on to make sure if it is a coronavirus vaccine to make it FDA approved or make it open source so we know exactly what's in it. Now more than ever, we need bold new plans, and I'm the one to get it done because I'm different, I'm new, and most importantly, I'm willing to listen to both sides. I'm here to get the job done with your help, with your vote. Visit my website, www.governor.life.
Thank you, Mr. Shura. Mr. Killens.
My name is Chauncey Slim Killens, and with your help, I'm extremely confident I will be the next governor of California if this is a fair election. Barring the use of Dominion voter fraud machines in this state, I will aggressively defend our God-given rights. And this is just to list a few things as your next governor. Number one, all abortion clinics and our private agencies will provide mandatory ultrasounds to each of their patients prior to conducting any abortive measures as a health and safety requirement. We will collect forms identifying those who were involved in the procedure and the staff, because we still hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are created equal by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, even the unborn child. And it is unconscionable that in the light of recent technological advances such as ultrasounds, that such barbaric abortive procedures are still practiced in the United States. So the size and location of the unborn child is irrelevant. It is still a human being. Number two, all citizens of California that successfully complete a firearms background check, they will be able to publicly carry and bear firearms with an authorized concealed weapons permit. Anyone who is illegal carrying and banishing a firearm to threaten harm or to afflict bodily injury will be persecuted to the full extent of the law. Third, I will aggressively defend the constitutional rights of all men and women wearing the blue, because blue lives matter too. They are falsely accused as racist white supremacists. They are subjected to unforeseen dangers.
Thank you, Mr. Killens. Ready to get going? Let's do this. We started off with question number 6, and we're going to be keeping on going down the line to the very next question, to Mr. Wildstar. There seems to be an educational battle between parents, and teachers unions regarding critical race theory. Are you in support of CRT being part of our state's educational curriculum?
Well, I don't support any state-sponsored school curriculum, whether it's critical race theory, Common Core, STEM, etc. I don't think that the state should be determining what our children are taught in our schools. I support school choice on the local level. That way parents can work with educators to come up with whatever curriculum they feel is what's best to be teaching their children. And get government out of it completely. And I think that's the best way for us to approach the situation right now more than ever before when people are upset with too much government being involved. I also support a voluntary taxation system. That way people locally can choose where their money is going. So you'll fill out a card, you'll choose how much money you want to spend and where it's going to go, and you can send that to your local school. That's how the money should be distributed instead of it being collected by the state and then given out to certain areas based on demographics or whatever the case may be. But I also think we should pick and choose how much money goes into our educational system. Right now, again, there's too much government control, government overruling, and if we localize that, then I think the people of the community and the state would be much happier.
Thank you, Mr. Wildstar. Anybody would like to respond? Mr. Martinez.
Our school systems are number 48 in the state and the country. We could talk about CRT training, we could talk about sexual education in our schools. Both of those have to go. We could talk about school choice. But the reality is we need to fix our education system from the root. We need to get in front of the teachers union, the boards of education. We need to get rid of them to solve them. We need actually the ability to each school, because of school choice, we need to take our education to a higher level. We will not support CRT, and we will not support our kids getting teach gender. What I mean by that is transgender activities at our school. That's for God and their home. School is for education, and we need to get back to it.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Shihori, you were second.
Yes, thank you. Regarding CRT, some school districts in the state of California are paying $1,500 an hour to a so-called CRT consultant to teach our teachers CRT. That is not wise use of taxpayers' dollars. And as an educator that was privileged, that worked in the most dangerous and at-risk youth communities and majority minority communities, I am telling you from the bottom of my heart as an educator, it is dangerous, it is very dangerous and wrong, every which way possible. Thank you.
Mr. Killens.
Yes, I will immediately defund hypocritical race theory in our schools. I will implement what I call the 3D policy. Defund the teachers union, redistribute funds, and defend parental rights to choose a school of their choice. And I will take 70% of that income that you are providing to go to a school of your choice, whether it's public, private, or parochial school. You, the governor, is not ward of the state. Those are your children. You have a right to decide what they learn: reading, writing, arithmetic.
Mr. Mercury.
So let's just want to clarify, there's only so many things that a governor can actually do. But before I get into that, I don't support CRT as well, because it advocates to bring about equity by using discrimination against white people. So basically, in short, CRT uses discrimination to prevent discrimination. That's pretty much what CRT is. So it's kind of an ignorant ordeal. But one of the things that we can do as a governor is to fight against the CTA and the teachers union by enacting a proposition. And that's one of the things that a governor can do. So it's not about all these wonderful ideas that we can present, but one of the first things is to present it to the people through a proposition by abolishing the CTA for what's called collective bargaining, using the public schools as pawns, which is exactly what they're doing, which is why they're able to get away with what they're doing right now. So right now, teachers and parents are challenging the teachers to actually abolish this, which also then weakens the teachers union. So that will also help to enact school choice so that schools can compete for the students, and then most importantly, to reduce taxes on parents who choose homeschooling.
Mrs. Blake.
In 2010, I ran for superintendent of public instruction, so I know a little bit more about the schools than most of the topics. One of the things that I thought about on how do you control the unions. I would advocate that the schools no longer collect the union dues, that the teachers, if they want to support the unions, write those checks out on a monthly basis. That way the teachers can see the impact that their dollars have with the union, whether they're supporting teachers' profession or not.
Thank you very much. You have a 30-second response if you would like.
Absolutely. Well, the one clear distinction that you guys should see between me and all of my opponents on this stage here tonight is I'm the small government advocate. I want people of the community to have more control and more say-so over what happens in their neighborhoods instead of government, again, dictating what that structure should be, what that should look like, what our children should be taught in the classrooms, who should go in which bathrooms or whatever. If you want to make that choice, then that should be made up by you and you only, not by Big Brother.
Thank you very much. Quick note for just accounting here. If you're going to be speaking into the microphone, do it, bring it right up to your mouth so that there's no distance. That way it'll help do that. There's some gremlins in the machine today. We doing okay back there? Mr. Martinez, you spoke on it just a minute ago, but we're going to talk about protecting our children in this next question, whether it's child trafficking or human trafficking that often involves children and the state's role in that, and also the attack on gender fluidity and what's being taught in our schools when it comes to sexual orientation and those kinds of things. What are your comments on those?
Well, first of all, we know that there's sex trafficking going on in the state of California, that we have to put a stop to it. How do you do that? You have to secure your borders, and you have to be stiffer laws on anybody who's caught with sex trafficking in this state. We talked about what should our kids learn at school. Transgender should never be taught at school. Boys should be boys and girls should be girls till the age of 18 where they can decide on their own. Our teachers do not have a degree. They're not psychologists. They cannot actually tell our kids that they need a bit different sex. Male transgender should never be playing in a woman's sport. You have different hormones. The male body produces testosterone, which grows into HGH. A woman's body produces estrogen, which is an anti-muscle builder. So a woman has to work twice as hard as a man just to achieve where she did. It's not fair that a male athlete who's failing or less subpar in his sport decides to be a female today and gets a degree, gets a scholarship to where this young lady have earned the right. Transgenders want to have a sport. The schools want to support it, have their own sport where they could compete with the same gender. It has to be equal and it has to be straight. We have to take our morals back here in the state of California. We have lost our churches, we have lost our morals, we have lost our parental rights, and it's time that we take it back.
We have everybody coming up right now. Going to comment? You came up first here. Go ahead, Mr. Mercury.
So I'm going to address the child sex trafficking part. California is ranked actually #1 for child sex trafficking in San Diego, Los Angeles, and San Francisco. So one of the first things that we need to do is stop creating laws that excuse the behaviors of sexual deviance and stop creating laws that protect the predator and not the child. Number 2, we need to stop teaching the normalcy of pedophilia as a dysmorphia rather than the person who is a sexual pervert. Number 3, we need to strengthen the families by helping parents by granting them more time off through their employers, and that will foster child and parent relationship. This will also help to fight against attacks on our children. And then number 4, we need to repeal the proposition which is famously known SB 145, also infamously known as the pedophile bill that was drafted by Senator Scott Wiener, that is, and 23 other Democrats. And in my personal opinion, if you actually signed off on that bill, then you are exuding pedophilia tendencies, and we need to start performing investigations on those people that are in our legislative branch that are allowing for California to be the #1 state when it comes to child sex trafficking.
Mr. Wildstar, you're next.
Thank you. Well, if you guys don't know, over 800,000 kids go missing each and every year, which should anger people more. Child sex trafficking and gender recognition have nothing to do with each other. One, we the people should do something about, but the other, we should not be doing anything about at all. Decriminalizing sex work would actually allow law enforcement to focus on helping those kids that are being forced into sex work by allowing adults, consenting adults, to engage in consensual activity, which again, decriminalizing sex work would do. It would free up those resources so police officers can actually do what's necessary. I think the best way to protect our kids is to make sure that they have a future free of debt and tyranny. Right now, that's the biggest threat to all of our kids, regardless of gender identity or whatever the case may be. All of our kids are being threatened by a totalitarian government and a cabalistic monopolization monetary system.
Thank you, Mr. Wildstar. Ms. Blake.
To help you out a little bit, Sweden has decriminalized prostitution, but they kept the laws against the Johns. So, and it has been effective. I don't agree with it. I think a large part of the problems are runaways, and we need to solve some of the homeless solutions and perhaps build a wall to keep the kids from coming over without parents.
Thank you very much.
Yes, speaking from experience, it's so important that to remember that our kids have been on lockdown because of the coronavirus. They're very vulnerable and very sensitive. Now more than ever, check out your public libraries and your public schools to make sure inappropriate material is not being taught to our kids, because it might be. Please ask questions, demand answers, and also if the school board refuses to work with you, do a recall. Do a recall until you get somebody on the board of trustees at your public library or school board that has child appropriate material. Thank you.
Yes, sir, Mr. Killens.
Yeah, according to the Office of Attorney General, he said, what is human trafficking? Rob Bonta of Attorney General, there's a federal law, 22 U.S.C. section 7100, and California Penal Code 236.1 defines human trafficking as anyone who deprives or violates the personal liberty of another with the intent to obtain forced labor or service, procure or sell an individual for commercial sex, or exploit the individual in obscene matters is guilty of sex trafficking. In another article, evolvetreatment.com, child sex trafficking, California's huge problem. It says California has a huge sex trafficking problem, especially when it comes to adolescents. According to the National Human Trafficking Resource Center, the largest majority of human trafficking cases reported in the United States each year originate in California.
Thank you, sir. Who have I missed so far?
Nobody.
Is everybody commented on this one now? You have the last response, sir. 30 seconds.
So here's the bottom line. Our kids are our future. And if we can't protect our kids now, who is going to? We were kids at one time and our parents protected us. But the good thing is that there was law and order in the state of California, because you used to be able to stay outside till the lights went out. We have lost a society and we need to get back to it. We need to stop human trafficking, and we need to stop transgenders being taught at our school. That's what God in our home is for.
Thank you very much, sir. Mr. Mercury, let's put on the hat of the king. You are now the governor, and you had this horrible thing called COVID-19 thrown on your desk. What would you have done differently, and what will you do now to get the state recovered? Financially, I should say.
Well, again, this is something that some people have said, well, you know, it's easy to do hindsight, but actually no, because I think, you know, what most people know if they have any sort of sense of basic health is you always quarantine the sick, you never quarantine the healthy. That's just basic sense right there. But instead, what we did was we locked everybody down and quarantined the healthy. So that was the most ignorant thing that we should not have done. The other one is I would have never incentivized our medical communities monetarily. So basically, if you went out there and you got tested, the hospital's got $15,000. If you administered, the hospital's got about a little over $30,000. That's an incentive for them to inflate the numbers. And here's the other thing. thing. There's a lot of other information out there from areas or boots on the ground or area of industries like epidemiology and virologists. They have already learned, and they're still learning right now, that viruses and bacteria react differently in different atmospheric conditions. So whatever happens up north of bacteria and virus is not going to happen, somewhere in the desert or by the oceans. So this is something that we should have actually engaged in that would have mitigated a full lockdown. The other thing too is we spent so much money putting fear-mongering out there. We should have taken that money and educated people on how to promote their health and how to boost their immune systems, but instead we didn't do that. So these are just very simple things that a normal, basic, intelligent person could have done. And my other half to that question of yours is no, the current plan right now I believe is not effective. I mean, let's face it, they're bribing everybody to get the shot. It's trickery and or lies coming from the state health department. So one of the best things that we can do right now is to do a complete overhaul that the governor can actually appoint the health director of the state of California. So let's put somebody in office that actually has a clear understanding on what it means to tell the truth and not lies. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mercury. Any responses? Yes, Mrs. Blake.
One of the concerns I have is the government and employers not having any skin in the game. They got a free pass, so you can inject yourself with this vaccine, and who knows the long-term care. My concern is when it's forced upon employees. The drug maker's not responsible, and I'm sure the state and the government won't take responsibility either. I propose that we start a long-term health care fund for those potential problems down the road that we don't know because it is experimental, funded by the companies that are mandating that their employees get the shot.
Thank you very much. Anybody, Mr. Wells, a response?
Well, America is the land of the brave, isn't it? So I would exhibit bravery instead of fear. And that's what our leaders have done, is shown fear by resulting to scare tactics to get people to comply with, again, protecting themselves. Government job isn't to protect you. It's your job to protect your own health. I can't tell you what's the best way to protect yourself. So people will do what's best for them to keep themselves healthy. We do have a country of free choice, so you should be able to choose if you want to get the vaccine or not, if you want to use UV rays, if you want to eat, herbs or something to treat yourself, another holistic way. There should be multiple methods of treatment, not just one. But I would recommend any safety cautions based on severity of symptoms or mortality rate. If people are bleeding from the eyes or dropping like flies, then yeah, we need to be taking drastic precautions. But these symptoms are similar to the flu, so they're unnecessary.
Thank you. Mr. Killens.
Yes, I think the parents should have a choice in deciding about this. And we will always look at science, not fake science, pseudoscience, which we're always given. If you want your child to be vaccinated, if you want to be vaccinated, that's your choice. The government should not force you to get the vaccine. There will be no vaccine passports. You can get on a train, your kids can go to school. According to California business closure in October 20, they said more than 19,000 businesses were closed permanently because of this nonsense. Yes, the vaccine, the COVID virus is real, but the individuals should decide about that. Of the 3.82 million cases, only half of them are in 3 counties in California. San Francisco, Los Angeles, Sacramento. They make up half. And almost 27,000, a third of California deaths are caused in those 3 counties. And they were...
Thank you very much, sir. Fuji.
Thank you, everybody. First and foremost, let me just say, one, I'm very proud to be an Asian American. I'm very proud of our vast Asian American community in California. So I'm speaking as an Asian. First and foremost, let's call it what it is, CCCP virus, okay? It's come from the Communist Party of China, clear and simple. The 1.4 billion people, Chinese, are good people. Like, they're good, but they're being controlled by a small minority. So going back to your question about the CCP virus, our own CDC lies about its name. The full name is Center for Disease Control and Prevention. What is that, CDCP? Rhymes with CCP. Think about that. They can't even be honest about their entire name. we can't trust them. It's pure and simple. We need an overhaul for our own disease control in the state of California, also at the federal level. But most importantly, the coronavirus vaccine must be an option, not mandated. And two, like the tobacco industry, we will investigate for consumer fraud and health risk, like we did with the tobacco industry in the 90s with these big pharma companies. Now is the time to act. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Martinez.
So the good thing is COVID already passed us. So let's talk about what would I do the minute I take office, because that's really what's important here. Not the past, but where we're headed to the future. First of all, we take the state of emergency and get it off of here. We reverse all the mandates. We make sure that nobody has to have a vaccination. Make sure that that's a choice. Make sure that masks are taken off unless you feel like wearing a mask. COVID-19 has taught us a lot. But one thing is that it has taught us that we need to start moving forward, that we're human beings, that we have battled through a lot and we can get through this. But we can do it by free choice, not by government telling you what to do.
30 seconds.
So I love what everybody says, and I think most of us up here are pretty much on the same page. So one of the most important things that we need to realize is that we need a government that stands on medical freedom. And medical freedom, too, can also be broken up per county. Every county should be able to handle at the local level to mitigate what we have, what's coming around right now as the Delta variant. So if everything that I've listed and some of what everybody else has listed, it's very simple so that we don't have to shut down the economy. We can easily work with our local medical communities to work with our businesses so that they can build an infrastructure to ensure that we don't involve ourselves into shutting down the economy again.
Thank you very much. In every candidate that comes out, there's always allegations. There's always, is he this, is he that, and it's, or she that, and it's always, are they for or against abortion? And my question for you is, would you support pro-life legislation? And if so, what would that legislation look like, Mr. Fuji?
Well, that's a difficult question. Not. Look, guys, you know, my website is www.governor.life. Number one. Number two, I've been an educator. I had the privilege of working at-risk youth. Number three, some of my kids, some of my students didn't make it out alive. So I know they're looking down from heaven, and they want me to tell you the right answer. The soon-to-be-born children have an inalienable right to life. And I'll be a governor, pro-life governor, that will work with all sides of the aisles to really make sure pro-life legislation is enacted as soon as possible on day one. I am pro-life. Visit my website, www.governor.life. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Any responses to this question? Mr. Killens.
As I mentioned earlier, I will make it mandated that ultrasounds be conducted because it's science, health and safety. And by the patient or the client having an opportunity to see the baby moving in the womb, 80% of people don't have abortions. Planned Parenthood is afraid of that. I thought they were for science. They're not.
Thank you, Mr. Killens. Anybody you would like to comment, Ms. Blake?
Yes, I'm pro-life. The one thing that I would do is stop family planning if it was possible.
Thank you very much. Mr. Wildstar.
I do support pro-life legislation, which is why I would end death row sentencing. I don't think we as people should be sponsoring any state deaths, whether it be of adults or of children, which is why I also don't think that we should be funding abortions with our tax dollars. Even though I personally am against abortion, I would not sign any law preventing someone from doing what they want with their own body, and no law should be created to prevent someone from doing what they want with their own body. We need to get government out of the way and involved in the situation and leave it up to individual choice. Get government out of foster care services. That way, if the person wants to provide, a child to a family in need, they're able to do so, or provide support for surrogate services. There's different ways of approaching this, but again, it'd be best dealt with on a community level, not by government officials saying we know what's best for you.
Thank you. Mr. Mercury.
Yes, I am pro-life and I am for pro-legislation. But this is just something I just kind of want to say to the people anybody who's watching. It must be nice to have been brought to term because clearly your parents loved you enough to bring you into this world, yet then you're going to support, you're pro-abortion. For me, that's just backwards thinking. And Planned Parenthood, in my personal opinion, requires a child in the picture to be planning for a parent, but they're more for about abortion. So one of the things that we can do is close down Planned Abortionhood, and I am all in support of defunding them. But the way you do that as a governor is to remove state Medicaid taxes that we send off to the federal government. We actually don't need to do that. We can retain that here and keep it here. And then that defunds Planned Parenthood, and then we can shut it down. Instead, we should be supporting communities and other hospitals and any other groups that want to help nurture people, to helping them realize that it's better to actually give life than it is to take it.
Thank you very much. He's already spoke on that. You have 30 seconds. Would you like to do 30 seconds, sir?
This is the state of California, and so that is a very relevant question. And people say, oh, don't be pro-life, you're going to lose the election and all this. And perhaps they're very accurate in the statistical numbers of who people vote for pro-choice and who do not vote for pro-life. But I would like to say this: I'd rather lose an election than lose my salvation. Vote pro-life. Thank you.
Thank you very, very much. Another one of the hot button issues has to do with a lot of Southern California. It is our borders. And the question for Mr. Killens is, California is notorious for open borders and illegal entry. As governor, what would you do to mitigate illegal aliens from entering our state?
I would use common sense laws. That's what we do with everything. The people that are legally coming in, I will kick them out immediately. You have to follow rules. You get in line, you obey the laws. There are thousands, hundreds of thousands of people that have obeyed the law, but they can't get in, and then illegals come in, and they're allowed to come in because Democrats want their vote. So I asked one of the candidates, I can't remember who it was, I said, would you just do you have borders around your house? Do you lock your door at night? And do you let anyone come in when they want to? He said, yes, anybody can come. See, he's lying. He will not let anybody come in his house and then go to work and pay. They sleep in his bed, take showers, eat his food. He goes to work and pay for it. Hey, how you guys doing? He didn't invite him over. So he invited me over, but he invited me. He didn't say I can crawl through the window and come in. I will build a wall. I will stop. I will say, Mexico, Venezuela, take care of your children. Stop bringing them over here. I'll take care of our children, you take care of your children, and if you don't, we're going to put some heavy fines on you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Any response to that, Mr. Wildstar?
Well, the right to travel is a God-given right. That's a human right that should never be restricted by any government whatsoever. Just look at our friends over in Cuba. We should be inviting them here, and we should be welcoming our friends in need with an open door, not with a closed one, especially if they need help. California is culturally diverse. Just look at its ethnic makeup, and we should be responding accordingly to our population and the people that are here. Republicans are pro-freedom. If you look at the roots of the Republican Party, they started being supportive of abolitionists. Even Ronald Reagan offered amnesty to immigrants. So I plan on making citizenship easier and more affordable, incentivize it through benefits like, voting and public services. But those public services, I do plan on implementing a sunset clause, so they will be limited.
Thank you very much. Ms. Blake.
Build the Trump wall and end sanctuary cities.
Boom. Mr. Mercury.
Just to kind of counter, first, you can't have open borders at all because it requires vetting. So despite what's happening in other countries, we still require the process to vet. So that way we're not letting anybody in, taking advantage of a horrible situation. So we have to maintain that if we're going to be a country of laws. Number two, you got to put a moratorium on the southern coastal borders. for at least a minimum of 2 years from all regions, because that's going to remove the argument from this being an act of racism, right? Because everything is racist nowadays. And then the other thing is we need to actually fine, potentially prosecute city mayors and city council members who have engaged in sanctuary acceptance. Their duty is to the constituents, it's not to the alien. That's why you swear the oath, to support and defend, right? But you're not here for the illegal alien that comes in here. So we need to actually start fining them and watch how fast everything gets into line.
Thank you very much. Mr. Martinez.
I'll try to do this in a minute. So first of all, we do have a border crisis. We need to build a wall. Mexico will pay for it with the money that we confiscate going across the border for drug use. Doesn't mean that we're going to deport 10 million people, because that's not going to happen. But we need to know who these 10 million people are. We're going to get rid of sanctuary cities. We're going to stop giving away medical. But what we will do is exchange that for a 4-year work permit, where these people who are here right now and broke the law can work their way back into good standings with the California people. They will come here, they will work for 4 years, paying California state taxes. If they break the law, then they will be deported. But we're giving them a hand up, not a handout anymore. Sanctuary cities and the free program stops, but a 4-year work permit will take its place.
Thank you. Fuji.
Yes, for transparency, I do have a California nonprofit, and it does serve the immigrant community pro bono, 100%. I do believe it's a complicated approach. I am pro-immigrant, and I do believe in sanctuary cities, not for violent felons. It has to be very specific, not for violent felons. We need to categorize that, and also I'm in favor of having better relations with Mexico to improve the economy and the situation on the northern border of Mexico and California, down for them, northern Mexico, so we can secure the barriers with their help. And also, more importantly, now is the time that I'm very seriously considering starting a new political party called Maria, which stands for Movimiento a Reformar Inmigración Ahora. Gracias.
Remember, guys, when you're holding your microphones, hold them in the center towards the top, because the antenna is on the bottom. Okay?
Thank you.
Final 30 seconds, sir.
Yes, now I forgot what I was going to say. About the borders. Yeah, we want borders. We want people to come in. Our founding fathers supported limited government, not no government, because they were governed. They governed. What we don't want is big government dictating to us. We want to put people in office that we want to speak and protect us, defend and protect our Constitution, our California. As governor, I will do that for you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Right now, we're going to deviate from the questions, because as the moderator, I get a little bit of liberty, and I appreciate that. But going back here, starting from the left, going to the right. Ms. Blake, I am a gun store owner. I'm also a retired deputy sheriff. The Second Amendment is under attack in this state, and there are many, many gun owners in this state who are, frankly, either defying the law or leaving the state so they can go to a free state like I was in Florida last week. What is your opinion on the Second Amendment, and how can, what would you do to make it better for our constitutional rights in California?
As a gun owner, I can appreciate that question, and though I'm in California, some of my guns are in Texas.
Yeah.
And it's a shame. We need to honor the Constitution and stop the policy of, I can't remember what they're trying to do now to make it palatable to give up your Second Amendment rights. And we just need to stay firm and vote people in that will protect our constitutional rights.
Thank you very much. Anybody like to respond to that? Mr. Wildstar.
Well, I'm the only candidate running for California governor that has pledged to make California a constitutional carry state on my first day in office. And that can be simply done by getting rid of some of the racist gun laws in our state, like the Mulford Act, which was imposed on all of we the people because the Black Panthers marched on the state capitol, and that Mulford Act was signed into law by Republican Governor Ronald Reagan. Even Duke Majian, another governor, Republican governor, signed more anti-gun laws in the state of California. So as the first Black Republican governor, I will be restoring equality to our Second Amendment rights by nullifying the Mulford Act, nullifying any and all unconstitutional gun law, and again, make California a place where you have the right, the God-given right, to protect yourself.
Thank you very much. Mr. Mercury.
So one of the things that a lot of people don't pay attention to is the amount of laws that came out in 2018 and 19, which were a lot of red flag laws. So one of the most important things that we can do is stop red flag laws because they border on pre-crime, where a neighbor can call you if they even think that you might do something wrong, but they know that you're a gun owner. We don't actually create laws. You can't be arrested for something that somebody feels or thinks that you might engage in. You need evidence, you need facts, you need data. So I'm all about removing red flag laws. The other thing too is in our legislation, we need to remove languages like assault weapon. Well, name me one weapon that wasn't designed to assault, or remove high capacity rounds as opposed to standard. They're pretty much the same. So we need to also increase and we need to expand on, most importantly, people's ability to actually protect themselves in their home, which we have here in the state of California, the castle law. But it's being so stringent, and if you end up protecting yourself in your home, a lot of people end up going to jail for defending themselves. So we need to expand on that, and we need to loosen the noose around that so people can really, truly protect themselves.
Thank you, Mr. Mercury. Mr. Killens.
Yes, there is no systemic racism with gun laws. Over 400 million people have over 400 million guns are owned by gun owners that have obeyed the laws and the rules of providing that with background checks. It's this many people that are usually not obeying the laws that are shooting people. So in 2019, 13 black unarmed men were killed by white police officers. 7,000 blacks killed blacks in 2019. But you notice BLM doesn't say anything about that. If there's racism, they're black killing blacks that people should be concerned about. Not just 13 people. And most of them were not committing crimes. So I would defend your right to bear and carry arms.
Thank you very much. Fuji.
Yes, thank you. As a technology background, let me just say I'm very pro Second Amendment. With that said, I mentioned technology because I have an audio geopolitical thriller on Spotify called Texas Biography, Second Republic, and it specifically deals with the Second Amendment. Make no mistake, if the Second Amendment is subverted, weakened, so will your liberty. The question about the Second Amendment is not a local issue, it's a national security issue. Many countries around the world cannot invade the United States because they know about the Second Amendment. So the Second Amendment is very important to our liberties. Thank you.
Mr. Martinez.
Well, I believe that we should have constitutional carry. First of all, let's get that out of the way. The Constitution was built for a reason, and it says that people have the right to do a militia that can stand up to the government. If Cuba had that, it wouldn't be in the problem it has right now. So we don't want to be Cuba. We're going to open carry in the state of California. We're going to deregulate all the gun laws that are going on. There's no more background check. You can have anything that's on the market for you to buy. We have to go a step deeper than that. When we talk about gun control, we actually have to go and find the illegal guns that are being sold that are making good, hard, honest Americans look bad. We have got to protect our rights. It's not about just the Second Amendment, it's about our Constitution. And we will do constitutional carry in the state of California, and we will go after illegal guns and illegal purchases of guns.
Thank you very much. Do you have 30 seconds? You're going to wave that. Thank you. Thank you very much. Let's check our mics real quick. There we go. All right, moving on to the very next question. This is another one that I would like to bring up that wasn't mentioned in the actuals, and everybody should be pretty prepared for this one. Being part of Rebel Radio now, that is my YouTube and my Spotify and all those things. We've talked about different things with the virus on our channel, and we've had 2 strikes now for saying things 6 months ago that have been proven true today. Things that would cause the livelihood of my channel to go down. What would you do, Mr. Wildstar, about big tech censorship and about what is happening in the intraweb or the World Wide Web right now when it comes to taking away voices?
I think we, the people, should occupy some space on the internet. Right now, it is being controlled by those private companies, whether it's YouTube or Facebook or Twitter, whatever the case may be. Those are private companies. So when you sign up as a member to create an account, you click yes to their terms of use agreement. So they get to dictate what happens in that public space. Again, we need to occupy our own, which is why I plan on creating a public-owned utility under my Gold New Deal. This would be our own power and water, but would also include our own server. So we have access to the internet just again on a public space. If your videos were on public broadcast, then they wouldn't be removed, and that's the difference there. Public broadcast is owned by we the people. Private companies are not, but we're expecting them to adhere to our laws. But they're dictating it in a virtual realm where there is no laws. It's just like going on the ocean. There is no law of the ocean because there is no government body dictating that. Same thing with our internet, and we need to, again, make sure that we have access to that, which is what I'll be doing as governor.
Thank you very much. Anybody would like to comment on big tech censorship? Mr. Killens.
Yeah, I believe things should be fair and across the board. If the big tech becomes a political entity for one side, I say that's unfair. It'll be like sitting in a courtroom and the judge, because he has power, he says, look, jurors, the defense attorney is the only one that's going to be able to speak, and the prosecuting attorney can say nothing during this criminal trial. Everyone be up in arms and saying this is unfair. Yet that's what's happening in the culture today. They're telling us, because we don't like your speech, what, God bless America? That is hateful. But go shoot the president. Leftist says that's okay, you can do that, that's not hate speech. This is nonsense, and I will either arrest them or shut them down.
Thank you very much. Anybody else? Fuji.
First, I want to say thank you to the former president and president-elect 2024, Trump.
Yes.
Okay, thank you for that litigation, because now is the time to get on board. And as a candidate, as a voter, and as an elected California official, I fully support Donald Trump's pursuit to find legal remedy to a conspiracy of more than one person to conspire to limit and subvert our First Amendment. Now more than ever, his free speech has been subverted, has been denied. Now we have to stand behind that litigation in force. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anybody else like to comment? Ms. Blake.
Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, they're all now acting as publishers and not platforms, and I think they should be held accountable. So as governor, I would support any class action suit against them.
Thank you very much. Mr. Mercury.
So a lot of the things too is sometimes people don't understand too is when you sign those contracts and agreement digitally that you're agreeing to their terms is because right now they're engaging in basically fraudulent activity, but that's being permitted by your representatives. So under the 14th Amendment, the right to contract that I've told many people is not limited. So this is why they're able to get away with and abuse what they're doing, especially since they've been able to silence a sitting president, one of the most powerful positions in the entire world. So I believe here at the state of California, what we can do is create a digital state bill of rights so that we can mitigate and get around what they have engaged in by definitely silencing people. And I, as a candidate, I've already been shadow banned on Facebook. I've been denied promotions on Instagram, and I got my TikTok taken down about a week ago because of the fact that I'm saying what I'm saying on this stage. I keep videos, I post them up, and I've got record of this. This is what we would basically look at as something that's just completely unfair, like Chauncey said. But what can we do to protect ourselves? And this is one way we could do it by a state digital bill of rights, provided that we remove the reprobates out of office.
Thank you very much. Mr. Martinez.
Well, it's very simple. We have a Constitution of the United States, and it's being violated every time that they censor one of us or anybody. Whether it's a private company or not, we still have a Constitution in place, and I will do something that Congress didn't do. I will fine big tech the first time that they do it. The second time, I will remove their licensing from being able to do business in the state of California. That will cause them to lose revenue and actually follow our laws in our Constitution of the United States. It's time that we actually stand up for our Constitution and take a stance for what's right.
Any final comments, Mr. Wildstar?
Yes, well, I would actually take action just like other countries had. And the basis that you'd be able to do that is on a violation of privacy rights, which I'm more than confident with a little bit of discovery I'd be able to do. But again, as governor, there's nothing that we as government should be doing, if anything, to stifle free enterprise and free market opportunities being available to you. I've been banned on Facebook. I've been in Facebook jail, Twitter jail. I have over 7 million views on my YouTube channel, and right now I'm banned from it. So we need to make sure that we have more options, not less.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Diego, do you believe that California is plagued with systemic racism, part one? And as governor, what would you do to prevent the narrative or the continuation of the narrative of systemic racism in general from increasing?
So what is their narrative is the first to go. Because that's the first thing. You got to go to the root of the problem. We cannot keep creating hate. We have came a long way in this country, in this nation. So how do we do it? First of all, we hold our teachers accountable because that's where it's being taught. We also go after the people who are instating it that are sitting in Congress right now. Maxine Waters. It's funny. She can go and create hate against white people and nothing happens to her. Taylor Minor Green, sorry. What does she do? Well, she got kicked out of her seat for saying something 10 years ago. We have got to stop the hate, and we start doing it by taking color, creed out of every application that you do. Nobody cares if you're Hispanic. Nobody cares if you're white. We care if you can do the job. And that's where we start. We take our teachers and we hold them accountable. If you're teaching racism, that is against the law. It's a hate crime that you're doing. There is no race better than any other. We are all Californians and we should all be treated equally.
Thank you very much. Any second comments on that? Mr. Killings.
Yes. There is no systemic racism in America. Let me repeat that. There is no systemic, and it saddens me that my black brothers and sisters are supporting this nonsense. How is Wildstar up here with systemic racism running for governor? Systemic racism wouldn't allow him to do that because no racist person would allow a black man to have control or rule over him. It's nonsense. And why are we teaching our children to be racist? I was offended by the KKK, what they did. Now we have black folks under BLM and Antifa doing the same thing because of skin color. Skin color has never been a crime, and I refuse to accept this nonsense.
Thank you very much. Mr. Mercury.
I'm going to disagree in part with Chauncey over here, but in part I'm agreeing too. There is systemic racism, but not the way that the media and everybody else thinks it is. It basically just means a system of prejudice, meaning a government that is prejudiced. So yes, we have a government that is prejudiced to its own people because they want to sustain their power. They're out for self-preservation. And one of the things that we can look at is the California Constitution, Article 1, Section 3, that it says the state shall not discriminate against or grant preferential treatment to any individual or group on the basis of race. Key words, it's already written. So what we're doing and what our legislative branch is doing is confounding the language by bringing up racial discrimination when it's already talked about because they're trying to induce division. So yes, we do have systemic racism and it is a corrupt government that is the problem.
Mr. Shiora.
Well, according to the Asian Pacific Islander Legislative Caucus, Gavin Newsom is set to approve $210 million for API hate programs. Are you serious? That's not wrong. It's not stupid. It's theft. It's theft of public tax dollars that we need for social workers and teachers and everything else. There's no systemic racism. I'm here. Chauncey's here. And everybody else is here. Of course there isn't. California is the most inclusive state in the country. It's one of the most inclusive places in the entire planet. So no, time to get back to reality. Let's teach kids math and science. Thank you.
Mr. Wildstar.
While I am here on this stage, thankfully, amongst a very diverse panel, our state government, like Mercury said, has discriminated against us by implementing certain measures for this recall election. Candidates had to supply 5 years tax return. That's extremely prejudiced against middle-class, low-income families, single mothers that may not be able to provide that, or divorced couples, whatever the case may be. We had a pandemic last year, but yet we again have a government body that imposed that rule upon us all. Now, if they chose to throw in race or skin color, then yeah, it would be even more prejudice than it is now. But California has its share of prejudice, and it's nothing I can't handle. I mean, I'm a victim, or pardon me, a survivor of police abuse. I do see the need for criminal justice reform, as well as ending real estate redlining, budget spending for schools, parks, etc., and childbirth practices. Those all need to be addressed.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Blake.
I'm a Native American, and I'm a woman in the oil industry. Let's broaden the conversation out for discrimination. It does exist. We're all tribal. What can you do about it? Well, at this point, I'm concerned about the bigger picture of the Marxists taking over our language and trying to divide the people that are in this country by using race instead of what they did over in Europe by using class warfare. This is a product of what they're bringing into our schools is communism and Marxism.
Thank you very much. Any final comments, Mr. Martinez?
So is there racism? Why do we have a black president for 8 years in the United States? When you talk about racism, what we have is division. It's man-made, and we are allowing it. We don't hate each other. Look above here. We're not teaching each other to hate, but our government is trying to force that. They're doing it by party lines. They're not really doing it by color anymore. But now if you're white, you're wrong. We went backwards to where we need to go forward, and we'll stop that.
Thank you. Thank you. As I said, I just got back from a quick business trip to Florida, and I'm sitting in the lobby of my hotel. And my wife and I are getting ready for our Uber to show up to go to lunch, and a young lady sat on the couch right across from us, a very nice lady, and we struck up a conversation, and she's a real estate agent. And she's talking about all kinds of things that are happening in Florida, because I'm kind of curious, some gentrification of some areas in Miami and those kinds of things. But then I have a question that I usually ask out-of-staters, and I asked her, I said, what's your vehicle registration cost here in Florida? She goes, well, I drive a Mercedes. No, I drive a she did it just like this. She goes, I drive a Mercedes. No, it's a Maserati. And I go, okay, how much is it? $35 a year. I go, $3,500 a year? No. $35 a year. I have a 21 GMC pickup truck that was $900 this year in California. This is to Mr. Mercury. Regulation and taxation in this state, being in the #1 state in regulation and taxation in America. As governor, what would you do to get us to be, there's good lists and bad lists, right? You want to be the best in education, but you don't want to be the best in taxes. You want to be the worst, meaning the least in taxes. What would you do to fix that?
Well, you're talking a little bit about business here, and a lot of us here that want to run a business need a place of business, which means you actually have to go into somewhere and find property or somewhere to rent. So right now, I've found that the core of this problem is dealing with our property under Article 13, Section 1, and I love the state constitution because the more I read it, the more I realize just what our state legislative representatives are undermining. And one of the things it says is property assessed at a fair market value. Well, the people don't have fair market value when a foreign investor comes in and buys up that property, and then all of a sudden you as a business owner or who wants to create new business and you want to get around, you want to start being an entrepreneur, can't actually engage in that because they raise up the premiums because you technically can't compete. And the other thing too is that some of this property is not being actually reported. So if you've got an idea, you want to get out there, you can't get out there because you can't afford it. Not to mention that the state of California is one of the most expensive, if not the most expensive, to start a business. So all of this needs to be rescinded on. All of this needs to be backtracked so that we can allow people to actually engage in owning their land so that they can start being entrepreneurs. And one of the things that we can do is institute through propositions that all property be given priority to state citizens and not the foreign investors so that they can't outbid you. So if you're a citizen here, you get dibs first. If nobody wants it, then it can go to the investor. And then that puts power back into your hands where you own that commercial property. You can engage in entrepreneurship. You can actually start then engaging in a free market in a healthy way, healthy competition. And this is what we're missing right now. But the state has been giving over to foreign entities, so everything is raised up, and the people of the state cannot compete. So everything is overexpensive, and people are now leaving in droves and won't come back because of this. And I aim to change this.
Thank you, Mr. Mercury. Mr. Martinez, you put your finger up there. Go for it. Taxes.
First step is we have to deregulate California. But we're getting taxed to death. So what we need to do is get everybody working so that everybody in California, there's no more free programs where we can lower the tax rate across the board. We need a flat sales tax. So it doesn't matter what bracket you're in. Now, with DMV, we need to be competitive with our neighboring states. That means there's no more $364 for my Maserati every year. It's more like $35 to $40. If you drive a truck, it should be a couple $100. If you drive a car, maybe $100. We can also clean that up. We have got to bring our taxes down because we do wasteful spending. So with the state audit, we can actually fine line our taxes.
Thank you. Mr. Killens.
Yeah, I always saying, I remember Bill Clinton said it's the economy, stupid. Many decades ago. That's an important issue. I think it's morality. If you have honest people, you don't have to worry about people breaking in, stealing, where you have to pay exorbitant amount of prices to keep people safe. If you're my neighbor, no matter what skin color you are, I'm not going to break into your house or your car. I'm not going to try to steal from your store. That by itself brings the money down that we're wasting, and the Democrat Party always uses division so they can control us. And I'm saying, yes, we will deregulate with reasoning. I will meet with these businesses, these monopolies, and talk with them and see if we can come with a solution where they can benefit, but the little people. That's why I will be the people's governor. I will defend your rights.
Thank you very much. Mr. Wildstar on taxes.
Well, I'm sad to hear that you had to pay so much in vehicle registration. Even over the past year, with our state being locked down, as well as many of our state agencies and people being told to stay home, they still had to pay vehicle registration, which most people ended up getting late, but they didn't get an extension on their tag. So what's the point at this point? Which is why, as governor, I plan on disbanding many of our state agencies and privatizing them, like the Department of Motor Vehicles. That way, if you want to register your vehicle, it's optional. We should be transitioning to a voluntary government, so that's what I support. I also plan on making California extremely business friendly by canceling taxes, sales tax, property tax, business tax, of course. Get rid of taxes and let people keep that money in their pocket where it belongs instead of government's pocket. I also plan on ending occupational license mandates and compliance requirements. That way more people of the community can start their own businesses.
Thank you very much. Ms. Blake.
Everybody agrees that we need to lower taxes, and one of the concerns I have is how do we get the economy moving in California. I would also lower the taxes on goods made in the USA so we can support our industry here. The other thing I would do, since so many jobs are leaving California, is reduce the annual minimum $800 tax on LLCs and corporations paid to the California Franchise Board so people can create their own jobs without the added tax burden.
Thank you. Mr. Fuji.
Yes, I would definitely say we need a complete revision of a California tax code. A good example perhaps is something called Act 60 in Puerto Rico, where they're trying to bring in investors and people to work and live there. Same thing, I would do a very similar situation to revise our California tax code, the people that have left, to have them come back, but also look for waste and fraud in our government. Listen to this. There's a website called GavinNewsom.com. Okay, it's obviously his website. It's registered under Contact Perfect Privacy LLC in Jackson, Florida. Not even in the state. How many of our state workers are taking money out of here and putting that somewhere else? We need to find out. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. And 30 seconds, if you need it.
So one of the things, too, that a lot of people don't know is that we already have a list of exemptions that are under the state constitution. And what we can easily do to kind of reinvigorate and bring back some of the businesses that have left are to positively affect and grant zero tax exemptions to businesses for at least 7 years, because that's the average time that it takes for any business to get organic customers and organic following, and of course to have some legs to stand on. So one of the things that we can do is those who fell prey to COVID-19, whether they furloughed their employees, whether they shut down, is add them a zero tax exemption under that state clause of the Constitution.
Thank you. I think every one of us in this room are affected by homelessness, whether it's within your own family or whether it's at your business with somebody taking showers with your hose behind your house. It is a systemic problem, and 27 out of every 100 Americans are homeless in California. 27% as of the latest study. Mr. Shihora,
Yes.
what do you believe is the cause of the 27% of homelessness in America living in California, and what would you do to change that tide?
First and foremost, I would open up investigations to other states to see those social services in other states, New York, Illinois, Minnesota, were encouraging their homeless to relocate here, giving them money and funds to come. And if so, we have to litigate so they could help pay for our homeless problem here. Number two, going on a quick topic that's related to homelessness. If the pandemic was a pandemic, why is it that our most vulnerable population is increasing and not decreasing? Something to think about. Number third, we definitely have to have a humanitarian approach to this. It's heartbreaking, and it's going to take everybody here and above and beyond to solve it. So I do believe in some form of housing for the homeless, categorizing priority. That's families that are homeless, 2 veterans, and then the other that are homeless. So we definitely need mental health services to help them. So I'm in favor of having a comprehensive approach to combat this homeless crisis, which we do have. And it's only getting worse every year. Once again, why? Economics, lack of housing, affordability, it's out of control here. But once again, remember this last question. If homelessness is increasing by the numbers exponentially, why is it supposed to be a coronavirus pandemic? Something to think about. Okay, thank you.
Okay, you're early right now. You still have 45 seconds, so I got a follow-up question. You can guys all respond to this one. Are you familiar with AB 109, Prop 47, and Prop 57? The decriminalization of drugs and the releasing of tens of thousands of prisoners back into California, therefore causing, you're talking about other states right now, correct? If you're a dope addict in Arizona and you know it's free in California, no consequences, where are you going to go? How do you feel about the fact that all dope pretty much is decriminalized, and all these other states, all the homeless there think, I can have a free ride over in California? What's your comment?
Yeah, there's a lot of people in the state government, including the governor, top down, that are enablers of this dangerous situation. It's increasing homelessness. So we need strict measures to say, yes, certain crimes should be criminalized and you don't get a free pass, especially violent offenders. Going back to drug use, it is a problem. We need mental health services, but I would not support that proposition. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anybody else like to comment? Mr. Martinez.
So let's talk about that a little bit. Defunding the police is one of the cases that caused homeless to go out because we get a lot more criminals that come from other states. Prop 47 was put in place with this a cite and release, which we have to reverse. Petty theft is petty theft. If you break a crime, you need to go to jail. What happens is that a lot of homeless people come into the state of California because they're doing drugs. They come here steal, and they stay on the streets because there is no punishment for them breaking the law. So we're going to go back to a state where we do not defund the police, but we enforce our law enforcement. We reverse the laws that allow criminals to commit crimes without no punishment.
Thank you. Mr. Wildstar.
Well, I just came from Oregon, which in the past election just decriminalized all substances. That's what I'll be doing to the state of California once I'm elected. When I visited there, I drove around, not too many homeless people, not drug addicts doing drugs on the street. So to think that decriminalization or drug use is an incentive for homeless people is a misconception when, again, there's states like Oregon where you can do whatever you want and they're not flooded with homeless people. So I plan on approaching the issue by making sure that the homeless people actually have homes built, which is why we'll be building 3D printed homes and earthships. These are self-sustainable homes that can be built in a short amount of time. and again, would be homes for those in need instead of agencies like Caltrans, another agency I will disband, which owns about 120 homes off of the 710 Beltway, and they spent $13 million last year alone just on securing those properties. So we're wasting money instead of investing it where it's needed.
So you didn't go to Portland then, correct?
I did not. I went to Roseburg, and it
Okay,
was
well,
beautiful.
go to Portland and you'll see what we're talking about.
Portland's a bigger city.
Mr. Mercury.
Sorry. I'm going to agree with you. Basically, what I'm hearing is that, yes, I agree that a lot of the homelessness is purposeful, and it is purposely being perpetuated because of fiscal mismanagement at the city level, the local levels. Basically, what I mean is that your city councils they're permitted a certain amount of money a year. But here's the thing, if they can claim a crisis, they can then request more federal aid, more federal funding. If they can perpetuate a problem over and over, year after year, and it gets bigger and bigger, they can request more money because they know that the people do not have any time to figure out where the money is going. So there's no real oversight. There's no oversight committee. So this is one of the reasons why I agree that these propositions are coming out, is to perpetuate the problem, allow for money to come here, the taxpayers have to pay it, and then at the end of the day, the problem never goes away. You have to prevent your cities from being able to engage in further requesting from federal aid, and as a governor, I will shut that down.
Thank you. Ms. Blake.
I was talking to Sheriff, and they pointed out the homeless crisis became a problem when the courts decided to turn loose all the criminals. We have a bigger problem than just how to help the homeless. We have a court system that believes in supporting criminals and not the constituents that live in the state of California.
Thank you. Mr. Killens.
Yes, I think when you incentivize crime, then it's going to happen. If you get free lunch, everybody lines up. It doesn't come out there. According to California Gov, Newsom allocates $150 million to protect homeless. Why did he forget to protect small businesses that were dying in California? Because they incentivize criminal activity and they're opposed to white privilege, Republican, conservative, Christian. They're opposed to that. So they do everything I will fight them back. I will stop all this nonsense. And I believe out of the 160,000 homeless people in California, probably the most, I believe a third of those men and women can work. So what I'll do is help them get a job, like clearing the brush in all these forests that are burning up every year. We'll provide some way for them to work and get on their feet. Then there'll be no more crime.
Thank you, sir. Fuji, any last comments on that?
Yeah, I think that's an excellent idea. The majority of them can work, and we need to get them on a work program as soon as possible. Going back to my first statement, we got to prioritize the homeless crisis, and that is homeless families get services first. Second would be veterans. Third, be the rest of the homeless. And so we got to have that category there first and foremost. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Killens.
Yes, sir.
When we first met tonight, when I saw the word slim, I was wondering if he's going to be more like Mama Cass or more like, so yeah, he's slim, that's for sure. All right, so being in agriculture for close to most of my life, about 40 years, whether it's in cotton, corn, or trees, California agriculture feeds 40% of the nation and around the world. Water is a big, big issue, and the lack of reservoirs. Back in the 50s, we built tons of dams with very limited resources and technology. We put people on the moon. We have something on Mars right now, but we are not allowed to make new reservoirs for water storage. And driving here today, I will tell you that Pyramid Lake is full to the very top, stealing water from Northern California, Shasta, Modoc, and all those counties up there. Northern California does not appreciate the theft of their water to be sold down to Los Angeles when there is resources down here they can use to make water for themselves. What is your position on agriculture and water and the use of water across the state?
Yes, I think the farmlands, this is how we live. This is how we survive. Without food, we do not eat. And we know when you cause these droughts and not allow water to be flowing throughout the state, as you just said, with the scientific technology that we have, we can easily, even with the many dams, we can tap into them and create a aqueduct that would feed throughout California, just like in your veins, your blood flows through and gives it the necessary. So we can do that. I would take money from the train that's going nowhere that Jerry Brown introduced. It costs $800 billion, I think, and we see no signs of it. I would use that money with science. I will bring the engineers in. We will sit down and talk. How could we solve this problem? And we will solve it. So everyone will be happy. I won't use political meandering to stop farmers because they're mostly conservative and treat them bad. I will help them get on their feet.
Mr. Wildstar.
Well, one thing we need to do is stop letting companies like Nestle siphon off hundreds of millions of gallons of our fresh water, bottle it up and sell it back to us without paying a dime for it. That'll definitely come to an immediate end with me as governor. But also with my Gold New Deal that I introduced to you guys, it will create a people's own utility so we have reliable water and power. By using atmospheric water generators, if we line these up on the coast, they literally create water out of thin air. I also will be ending these man-made droughts by saving water for a rainy day, no pun intended, like with Temperance Flats, the Sierra Nevada runoff, etc. We need to be preparing, again, for times when we don't have water, but this has all been man-made, manufactured. We need to make sure that rock farming is implemented. This is a way for us to grow food by using less water, and also with permaculture standards by making sure that we have proper runoff as well.
Thank you very much. Diego.
Coming from the Central Valley, water is very important to everybody. First of all, we don't have enough dams to hold enough water. We're dumping too much water into the ocean for no reason whatsoever. We have desalination plants that haven't been fired up since Governor Brown was in office because he shut them down. So let's start with number one. We need to build a reservoir up in Mendocino County so they have the water that they need. It was planned in the 50s to do it, and they didn't do it. Second, Tulare dams only holds up to 100,000 people worth of water. We need to give them more water. Where do we come up with the money? We take the money from the train to nowhere, we put it into infrastructure. We open up our desalination plants here. We hold 3 years worth of water in reservoir, and what we have left over, we sell to our neighboring states.
Thank you. Next one, Ms. Blake, did you have a comment on this?
We just need to build more dams.
Thank you very much. Next would be Mr. Mercury.
So I would agree. It's going to take a lot of money, but like right now, Gavin Newsom is already giving out $116.5 million incentive to get people the jab. So there's some money that we can put into this. But another area that we can do is use obligation bonds that the state already has to put into smaller delta tunnels into the areas where cities are relying on agriculture. Number two, fund smaller recycling reservoirs with that same money. And number three, water flow standards. We actually don't have them under the state constitution. It just says that water is to be used for beneficial use to the fullest extent. So we need to standardize that across the state so we don't dump it into the ocean. And the next one is year-round preventative measures. We actually don't have year-round preventative measures, believe it or not. And it really surprises me. So why aren't we putting some of the money, or at least checking into where our pipelines are going to and some of the damages that have happened? But lastly, most importantly, is much like solar, we need to engage in rain harvesting for homes, apartment, business buildings, and give tax incentives to people so that when there's a drought, you have your own water. So that way, when there's an infrastructure that is collapsed or damaged, you can still be sustained on your own until that gets fixed. That's how we're going to get this and get it all fixed.
Thank you. Mr. Shiro.
Yes, first and foremost, I do agree. I've heard that estimate that about 40% of food production is from California for the nation and the world. And because of that 40%, I don't like to bite the hand that feeds me. That's why I'm very pro-immigrant. But with that said, just as important that I've been to some of these meetings in special districts with water. These people are not qualified. They don't have a background in hydrology. We need to have it. We have 58 counties. I would, day one, declare a drought emergency. We need more IoT technology and Internet of Things to help conserve water. And I do not believe in lockdowns, even if there is a drought emergency, which I believe does exist and will continue to get worse. Lockdowns are not the answer, but technology can help conserve more water. Thank you.
Thank you. 30 seconds if you'd like, Mr. Killens.
They said it all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We're going to shift gears just a little bit, and we're going to start with Ms. Blake, and we're going to go right down the line. I'd like a hero sheet. If you're not familiar with what a hero sheet is why are you here, what have you done, and tell us a little bit about yourself and what brought you to this stage today. Ms. Blake.
I'm a petroleum geologist, and when I first came to California, I noticed that there were no young people joining the professional societies. At that point, I ran for superintendent of public instructions to promote STEM. I have since gone on and started STEM Delivered, where we put on professional workshops for teachers. I also started a publishing company where I develop educational content. We have an app out called Antelope Up. We're going to be promoting science concepts through literature. We have a children's book coming out in November, and we also do tabletop games. And I developed a game where kids can learn businesses, and hopefully they'll also be out for National STEM Day.
Great. Thank you. Mr. Wildstar.
Well, as I said, I'm a musician. I actually moved to California as a teenager at the age of 17 to pursue a career in music, and have spent my entire adult life in California. And that's what California needs: more attraction, more opportunities, instead of them being dwindled down right now. And that's what I've seen happening over the past 20 years that I've lived in the state. Under our one-party rule with the Democratic Party, they pretty much, again, tied our hands as a community to provide more opportunities, and of course, as an individual, prevent you from being able to prosper on your own. That's why I plan on nullifying bills like AB 5, which prevents people from working as an independent contractor. That way everybody can work for themselves, not just rideshare drivers. Musicians are affected by that bill as well, and that's why I believe that we need to focus more so on liberty. One of my greatest inspirations is Dr. Ron Paul. He was a Republican that ran for president of the United States in 2012. He was the first person that I ever voted for as a Republican, being a longtime Democrat, and that's what I want to do. I want to inspire the people of California on both the right and left, red and blue, to vote gold, vote for a libertarian Republican, and someone that's going to free we the people from tyranny.
Thank you, Mr. Wildstar. Mr. Martinez.
Well, we all know everything that's going on in California, but we forget to talk about a couple of things. Deregulating California, bringing in industry into the state of California so people can be employed. We also know that not everybody's meant to go to college, but everybody's meant to make a good living. So how do you do that if you don't have no college education? We make programs like on-the-job training, where small businesses, big businesses get a tax break for employing and training somebody. How about trade schools? How about bringing trade schools back so everybody has an opportunity to actually have a good job? We have a lot to do in the state of California. But if you do not deregulate it, if you do not make it business friendly, we will not have a California left to sustain us. I would deregulate California, bring businesses back.
Thank you. Tell us about yourself, Mr. Mercury.
A little bit about myself. I'm a father, I'm a veteran, I'm a business owner, and I'm an amazing husband, according to my wife. She'll tell you right now. You know, I was born in this state. I was raised in this state, and I proposed to my wife in this state. I swore in and, you know, joined the military in this state. This is my home. This is where it all began, and I've traveled the world. I've seen multiple different countries. I know what we have here, and I know what we're losing here. And right now, for me, it looks completely upside down. And what brought me here was the exposure that I got to the corruption when I ran for Congress, and just how blatant and bolden it is. And it's disgusting, and it's hard to stop because everybody is in on it. And it's difficult to figure out who it is that we can really trust. And I've gotten to the point and I've realized it's because one most important thing that we have removed out of our lives, and that is God. And the second that we removed God out of our lives, we have removed every blessing that has ever been given to us. And now we're hanging on by a hair's breadth before we lose it all. And that's what brought me here today. That's what brought me into this race, to fight to give it back so we have a smaller government so that the people can maintain control over their government, which is the way it's always supposed to be.
You know the closing statement's coming next.
Oh, I got more.
Okay, good. Mr. Shira.
Thank you. My name is Fuji. Family, unity, justice, integrity. As an educator, I promised my students that I would do what's best. They asked me to run. They always said, when you have an opportunity, run for public office and do what's right. Do what's right for the kids, for the families, for the mothers and the fathers. And that's why I'm here. I'm here for school choice. I'm pro-life. More importantly, I have a detailed plan to get our kids back on track. Right now, STEM was useful, but we have to go beyond that. I have an educational plan, for example, called ASPIRE, A-S-P-I-R-E. It stands for Artificial Science, Programming, into Networking, Robotics, and Environment. Kids will learn about AI. They will learn about computer programming. They'll learn about enterprise networking. They'll learn about robotics, i.e. automation. They'll learn about ecology with environment. We need bold new leaders. I'm one of many talented individuals here, and many of my fellow candidates are just as deserving as I am to be your next California governor. However, what sets me apart is that I understand the world very differently. I have a technology background. I understand I'm multilingual. Just as important as that, I see into the future that AI, or robotics, automation will be a part of it. I'm proposing a Latin American cryptocurrency based in California. I'm also based in better relationship with Southern California, with Baja California and Baja California Sur to make it more secure. Why? So we make it a free trade zone. Also have more affordable housing so people from San Diego, Los Angeles, San Francisco could be also allowed to retire in Baja California at an affordable rate while in safety. So I'm thinking long term, I'm thinking for the future. Visit www.governor.life.
Thank you. Mr. Killens.
Yes, thank you very much. I was a correctional officer, retired for 21 years, and enjoyed the job trying to talk to people and turn their lives around. I love the Lord, and I don't think we should be ashamed acknowledging that as running, because the left shares all their gods with us. The God of government, the God of Mother Earth, the God of sex. Why can't I share my God with society? I have high moral standards. I'm not perfect. You can ask my wife. But when I tell you I'm going to do something, my word is important. We have politicians in office who you cannot trust their word. Usually what they say means the opposite. I'm going to say what I'm doing. I'm going to say what I mean. I'm going to mean what I say. I will fight for the citizens of California. I don't care if you're black, white, orange, or blue. I will fight for you because you are the people. We the people. I will represent you. I will stand for you. I will, and I'm not saying this out of pun or gesture, I will lay my life down for the truth. And what they're doing to us, I call the Nazi Socialist Democrat Party and the Rhino Republican Democrat Party, good cop, bad cop, playing against us, destroying our lives, where they incentivize criminals and they say you are bad because you don't have a mask on. We're going to arrest you because you're white privilege. Isn't Hillary Clinton white privilege? Isn't Joe Biden white privilege? But see, they're Democrats, so it's okay. Dr. Fauci has killed more black, brown, and yellow unarmed black people around the world with COVID-19, yet they will not lock him up.
Thank you very much. So I have two questions from the audience, and I don't want to just go to you and you. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to change the rules just a little bit to be 1 minute answers. You're all going to get the same question right down the line. We're going to do that twice, and then we're going to wrap it up with our final statements. Fair enough? By the way, I do want to apologize. I did not ask you for your preferred pronouns earlier. If I offended you, I'm so very sorry. But I don't think this is the crowd where I need to worry about that. Huh?
I'm mucho macho.
I identify as a proud card-carrying white supremacist.
There you
Mucho
go.
macho here.
All right, guys, here we go. We had a specific question about the crisis in Cuba. And what does the position of the governor in California have has to do or should do or can do or should not do about what's happening in Cuba right now? Starting with Ms. Blake. 1 minute.
The crisis in Cuba is a long time coming, and I would open up the states for refugees if they can make it through the federal process and take them in. We're taking in Somalians, we're taking in Guatemalans. I think we need to take in Cubans.
Thank you. Mr. Wildstar.
I agree with Karen because, again, this is our land. Your land, my land, our land, and we need to be sharing that equally. Although California is quite an awful distance away from Cuba, I think Florida is much closer to provide amnesty to those in need. But we, again, should be inviting our friends and our neighbors that are in need with open doors, not closed ones. So as governor, I would be letting those people in Cuba that would like to get away from their country, if you adore freedom and liberty and justice for all, then California is welcome to you. As long as you're a contributing member of society, we will welcomely have you here. And that's the type of approach that we need, that we should be expecting from our governor, is to accommodate the population that's here, the people that's here, and our freedoms and liberties that expand beyond government control.
Thank you. Mr. Martinez, I saw a big smile come on your face, and I'm kind of curious what you're going to say. Cuba.
It's sad what's going on in Cuba right now. The United States went kind of through the same thing. It's called revolution. So we go to Cuba and we fix the problem. It'll be back tomorrow. I feel for the people in Cuba, but I think the people in Cuba need to stand up, fight for their freedom, and have their country back, just like we're fighting for ours. Not that I don't feel bad for them, not that I wouldn't aid them, but they need to fix the problem, because every 10 years we have the same problem in Cuba. They want to fix the problem, we'll aid them, we'll give them the guns that they need, but they need to fix their problem in Cuba and make it just like the United States, the land of the free.
Thank you. Mr. Mercury.
You know, all of us are up here for a reason, and that is because we're fighting for our state. I didn't pack up my bags and I didn't leave my state. I'm staying here, I'm standing here, I'm fighting for the people of my state. Whether you like me or not, I might say something that might change somebody else. But whatever the case is, I stood my ground. And I understand what's going on in Cuba. The problem is I'm going to agree with Diego, is that, yes, they need to stand up. They need to turn around. They need to fight back. And we need to encourage them and encourage the people to stand up, to fight back, that it's okay to fight for your freedom, your sovereignty, your ability to live life. And that is what we're doing up here, is to fight. And we need to encourage them to do the same thing. So as governor, technically, we don't have any authority, but we can encourage them and we can build them up. And that is what we should do right now.
Thank you. Mr. Shiroa.
Thank you. And first and foremost, let me say I am in direct contact with the dissidents. I'm proud to support Cuba Libre for a free Cuba. So certain things I cannot say to protect their names. But I will say this, I do have a plan. What we have to do is make sure the internet's up and running. One way to do that would have 4 cargo vessels on each point of Cuba where they could have internet access. Another backup plan would be satellite internet, although so is possible. But I'm in direct communication with the dissidents. I am supporting a free Cuba, and I'm 100% behind any effort to make sure the communist regime does not stay there. Because if they do, Cuba will become a Chinese aircraft carrier for a very dangerous position on national security level beyond the time we have to debate this. Thank you.
Thank you, Fuji. Mr. Killens.
Yes, I think maybe we should help, but it's their job to change what's happening. It's always the people in the society or country that have to decide. We can assist them to whatever extent we can, at all possible. I would be glad to do that, to talk with them, because any unjust law is a law to be broken. And if you're suppressing people so you can control them, it's wrong, and I would be on their side. However, that does not mean we open the borders and just allow people to come in. I don't know if Wildstar lets people stay at his house, you know, like 30 people, and eat his food, because he's for everybody. See, no, he doesn't. I'm sure he got a door on his a lock on his door. So we will use common sense laws and rules to help people that really need help as much as we can, but they are responsible, just like we, the people, are responsible for getting our government back, and I will do it.
Thank you. That was 1 minute each, guys. That was 1
Do I
minute
get
each.
the response since he called me out by name? 30 seconds at least.
If I give you one, then everybody's got 30 seconds. Go ahead, Wildstar.
All right. Well, my home is a private residence. If I was offering public housing to everybody, then yeah, I would expect people to come to my door. But we do not own this land. Okay? As much as people want to believe otherwise, this land is not owned by anyone. We are occupants of this land, which we share equally. No one should be dictating what should happen here. But if we as a community say, again, we want to help those in need, then we should be honoring our Constitution and what that says.
30 seconds. Thank you, Mr. Shior.
I do want to make it very clear, the Chinese Communist Party and Iranian factions of the militia are in Cuba at this moment. So Cuba does represent a national security threat, the communist regime, not the good people of Cuba that want freedom. So Cuba is very different than other Latin American countries because of proximity to continental U.S. It has a unique national security interest for all of us. Thank you.
Anybody else? Okay. Has everybody here heard of the VAERS website? VAERS. That is the Vaccine Response for Negative or for Hospitalizations or Death by the Federal Food and Drug Administration, the CDC. They track negative effects of viruses. And right now, there's a lot of people who are choosing not to be vaccinated. In some states, like Tennessee, it's like 30% of people are vaccinated, and it's really upsetting the administration. But that being said, we have a question from the audience from Frank. I won't say his last name because he's related to somebody up on the stage here, but I want everybody to answer this question. There are rumors out there that insurance companies are considering denying coverage for medical insurance if you do not get vaxxed. How do you feel about forced vaccinations and companies like insurance companies that are highly regulated maybe considering that? And if they did do that, as governor, what would you do?
I would have them stop doing business in California. Everybody can make that choice whether you take the vaccine or not. It's an experimental drug. They're not informing everybody of all the side effects. What they're doing to the people by forcing them is unethical.
Thank you. Mr. Wildstar.
I agree with that. USA is a free country, so we need to be upholding that principle of freedom and free choice no matter what, including with this situation where, again, you have a group of people trying to force others to get vaccinated. It's new era discrimination and segregation that we have now happening. So I do not support any mandated vaccinations, any mandated ID cards or any mandates for that matter, no matter what it be. We the people should not be forced to do anything that we want against our own will. But with these COVID-19 shots, with them being experimental and being under emergency use authorization, we need to be making sure that these manufacturing companies, Big Pharma, is being held responsible. Right now, they're not. So even if people have some adverse reactions, because there isn't any liability clause, they're taking the responsibility on themselves.
Thank you, Mr. Wildstar. Mr. Martinez.
Well, I'm against anything getting forced down your throat, put in your body. So I'm against the vaccination, but we have to work with the CDC to make sure that they don't come to your house, make sure that they don't try to force you to do anything, and there's got to be laws put in place. Because what's going on, we can all say we're all against it, but what are you going to do about it? What are you going to do when they come to your house? We have got to take a stand and make sure that that's illegal for any government agency to come to your house and put a needle or anything else in your body. So I would take strict laws against these companies that do not hire you because you do not have the vaccination. I would take strict laws against anybody who thinks they're going to come to your house and give it to you. Yes, it's the government, and we need to put it back because the people are the government.
Thank you, Mr. Martinez. Mr. Mercury.
Well, one of the things that we can do to fight back is induce HSA, a health savings account for everybody. So if the insurance companies don't want to cover you, fine. The state then can allow you for massive tax write-offs and allow you to engage in a health savings account. So that way you can start paying for yourself, because that's pretty much what you're doing right now. And a lot of times people who are paying into the insurance and then they need their insurance's help, unfortunately don't qualify for half the stuff that they need. So then why are we bothering in the first place? So then let them keep their insurance. As a governor, I'll induce the HSA so that you can start putting money in for yourself and taking care of the health that you need for yourself. And that's going to make them mad. They're going to start losing money, and they're not going to want that. But we can go one step further too by going around the Vaccine Injury Act of 1986, where I can put a moratorium on any vaccines that are administered in this state. So no more distribution until they can prove the vaccination company's efficacy behind what they're trying to inject into people. And if you can't do it, gone. We'll go to other third-party companies that will and willing to hold themselves accountable to ensure that those vaccines or any medicines are actually working. That's how we're going to get around. We're going to play and beat them at their own game.
Thank you, Mr. Mercury. Mr. Shiora.
Yes, and speaking as an Asian American and an Asian American elected official, I implore my candidates and the announcer and people in the audience to call the coronavirus what it actually is. CCP virus, Chinese Communist Party virus. It is a bioweapon. It's clearly for population control. Number two, we need to make sure this pandemic is classified correctly. Epidemic, not pandemic. Number three, this is very dangerous. This is experimental. It's not FDA approved. And therefore, we have to go after Big Pharma. So it's your choice to get vaccinated if you so choose. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Shura. Mr. Killens.
Yeah, there are conflicting scientific models about this. There are those that are doctors qualified in this field that are saying the science doesn't prove what the government is saying. And this has happened for history. This is nothing new today. They come up with stuff scientific, and they say they have proof for it. Remember, white people were superior to blacks. They had scientific evidence. Now they have COVID, and they have evidence. So when you suppress free thought, scientific thought, I'm opposed to that. Even in a CDC report 3 weeks ago, they said reports of death after COVID vaccines are rare. More than 318 million doses have been taken, and out of that, in the United States, in 6 months, from December 2020 to June 2021, 5,500 people died. That's 0.17%. Why are we shutting down the economy for that? It's a lot.
Thank you, Mr. Killens. Now it's time to wrap this thing up with your final statements today. Since we've always started over here on the left and let her go first, I'm going to mix it up just a little bit. We're going to go kind of a different order so that we don't always end with the same person and always begin with the same person. Is that okay, Miss Blake? Mr. Killens?
Free at last.
Mr. Martinez, please, let's have your final statement.
Well, my final statement, I kind of said it when it was, what about me, right? I wanted to make sure that everybody got my policies out and make sure that everybody knew what was going on. I'm about real solutions for real California problems, and that's what you find when you go to my website, DiegoMartinezForGovernor.com. I'm not hiding away from the problems, and I'm not hiding away from the solutions. There's real policy there. There's substance. Take a look. Come on my show every Thursday morning. It's called Waking Up California. 9 a.m. on Instagram and Facebook, where you can interact and ask your questions. A candidate for governor, a candidate for anything works for the California people. The California people should be and are entitled to ask questions and get the real answers. And if you're not getting that from the person you're picking right now to run for office, you're getting robbed of your freedom and your rights. And you're not changing anything. You're changing one dictator to another. Look at DiegoMartinezForGovernor.com. If the answers aren't there, come on Waking California Up with Diego Martinez, 9 a.m. every Thursday morning, and ask the question, because you deserve the real answer.
Thank you, Mr. Martinez. Mr. Shiora.
Yes, I'm so glad to be here. Once again, what makes me different is I am independent, and I'm going to work with Democrats and Republicans and Libertarians alike to really pursue pro-life legislation, give you school choice, improve our economy, refund the police, yes, such as making sure the cities with more than 1 million people, make sure they could travel in pairs to make sure it's safer for the community and for our bravest women and men in uniform. Number 3, what we're going to do, create a cryptocurrency between us and Latin America to help our economy. Number 4, now more than ever, we need to modernize our education. That will happen. Number 5, I'll make sure internet voting is going to be experimented with at the local level to expand it to the county level and then eventually statewide level. California is the leader in innovation. We need leaders to be innovative, and I'm the one that will do that to get it done. I'm asking for your vote in September 14th. Go to my website, www.governor.life, and consider voting for me. But just as important, look at the other candidates on my website, www.candidate.contact, that lists over 70 people running for California governor. This isn't a Republican or Democrat issue. It's clearly a democracy issue. So look at the candidates, call them, contact them, invite them to church, invite them to your events. Now more than ever, we need voters like you to get involved. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jor. Mr. Killens.
Thank you, we the people, for allowing me this opportunity to present my political presentation and platform. I will reject every facet of new normal because it's hateful and bigoted. It is dividing us by racial and gender lines, destroying our faith, our families, and our freedoms. And I guarantee I will restore true normal back to the great state of California. That is with your help. Millions of you have to help me make this happen. So if you believe in true justice and equality, you can do it. We can do it together. I was strongly contemplating to seek the political office of governor as a write-in candidate, representing by the people, of the people, and for the people, not beholden to any major political party or special interest groups. However, after convincingly hearing from many of my supporters, I have decided to take their advice. So I will place my name on the ballot this September. Together, we must make a profound and resolute statement to the powerful elite who are attempting to destroy the lives of many hardworking, law-abiding Californian American citizens. They have disrespected us, they have disfranchised us, and now they are attempting to marginalize those of us who hold traditional Christian and or conservative values. We say no more. What do Californians want? Justice. When do we want it? Right now, because we are essential, we are relevant, and they will hear from us in September. I thank you, we the people, for your support. Go to my website, Witness in the Public Squares in red letters, learn more about my political position. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Killens. Mr. Wildstar.
All right. Well, I would like to say thank you to the pastor and the church for inviting us here, as well as the moderator and timekeeper. Thank you both for an excellent job. And thank you to the audience for being here. We definitely need more members of the community to be involved with our electoral process. Not too many people want to be because of the political climate and are retracting because of that. But we should be encouraging our friends, neighbors, family members, all of our loved ones, all of our neighbors to get involved in this recall election, because it is an opportunity for us to bring about a true revolution. I would like to also thank my fellow candidates for being here tonight, because we're the ones showing up. While you got Jenner and Kylie and Cox and Meet Kevin and all of these other people out there, they're parading around and they could care less about speaking to the people directly, hearing what they have to say, as well as, again, hear from their other candidates and compare their ideas to others. So thank you all for being here, and please take that into consideration above all else, is the people that you see on this stage right now. We care enough to put time, take time out of our schedules, take time away from our families, sacrifice as candidates to show and prove to you as we deserve, why we deserve to serve as the next governor of California. And as I started first by saying, time is of the essence, so we need to be acting now. When do we want justice? Now. So with this recall election, whoever we elect, they'll only have 1 year in office to show and prove why they should be reelected as governor of California in 2022. That's why I'm asking you all to visit my website, wildstar2022.com. Go wild with WildStar for governor, and trust me, I'll show and prove to you as why I should be reelected governor next year. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wildstar. Ms. Blake.
The CCP has committed a crime against humanity, and the world is suffering. We have to get our economy up and running. We have to get our kids back in school safely. One of the things that I'm going to repeat myself on, these far UVC lights in the schools, in every public building. We can put them in the restaurants. They're already in several restaurants. There are better ways than injecting a vaccine into our children that's untested. Thank you.
Thank you. And final speaker, Mr. Mercury.
Well, thank you, Pastor Ron, for allowing us to be here, New Hope, and guests, and everybody who's watching on the stream. You know, as governor, I will ensure that the state reestablishes first and foremost our faith in God the Father. That's key. I don't care who you are. If any candidate's not willing to profess, in my personal opinion, that might not be the candidate for you, and that might not be the governor for our state. And the blessings of what our forefathers have given us, as I've said before, are a hair's breadth away. We are very close to losing it. And trust me when I say, if Gavin stays in office, he's going to be far more emboldened than he's ever been. But I want you to remember that corrupt government can never succeed when the people have true prosperity. Always remember that. But the degenerates in office need to change the language, to change your perception, to pass legislation so that they can engage in their perversions with absolute impunity and without remorse or accountability. So I'm going to leave you with some examples and some people that are at home watching this right now, because I want you to understand the subtleties of the language that they do to change. Because it's not a Wuhan virus, it's COVID-19. It's not one mask, it's two masks. It's not a lockdown, it's a stay-at-home safe order. It's not equal opportunity, it's racial inequality. It's not racism, it's white supremacy. It's not justice, it's injustice. It's not illegal alien, it's undocumented non-citizen. It's not assimilation, it's integration. It's not kids in cages, it's migrant facilities. It's not exclusive, it's inclusive. It's not far right or far left. It's not child rapist, it's pedophilia dysmorphia. It's not story time anymore, it's drag queen reading hour. It's not male or female, it's transgender, gender neutral, non-binary, gender, pangender, and gender queer. And it's not about you being American anymore. It's factions and parties of GOP, the DNC, the Republican, the Democrat, whether you're an independent, left-wing, right-wing, moderate, centralist, conservative, liberal, green party, red party, blue party, purple party, or any other party in between, to keep you divided. And I do not and will never stand for that. I aim to clean house. I aim to remove politicians out of politics. I aim to starve the government and feed the people, because I will be the next California governor. Thank you.
Now, that wasn't so bad, was it? Right, guys? Great. Thank you so very much for coming down from all over the state to participate in this forum. God bless America.
Yes.
We can do these things here without the Gestapo or without the CCP or without the Cuban authorities coming into us and telling us that we are going against the supreme leader, whoever it might be. Although, with Cuba right now, one of the things that I've found is you're not going to hear that narrative on the media, because that is the ultimate goal of Democrats in this country, is socialism to communism. And to see somebody so close like Cuba revolting against communism is dangerous for their narrative, and that's why you're not going to see the media talking about it. Once again, thank you so much to the New Hope Family Worship Center and Pastor Ron King, my new best friend, Mindy Koenig right here, and everybody who came here tonight and online. Let's have a great recall. Let's get Newsom gone. Thank you so very much for coming on tonight.